The ground shakes. Not from thunder. From weight. Metal presses into earth. Hooves slam. Breath turns sharp behind closed visors. Someone is shouting, but the words vanish in the noise. Banners snap violently overhead, colors blurring as bodies surge forward. The air is thick, wet, heavy with panic. A man stumbles. Another falls over him. Steel collides with steel, not in clean strikes, but in desperate clashes, uncoordinated, frantic wrong. Something is off. The formation tightens, then breaks. Mud grips boots like hands that refuse to let go. Every step forward feels slower than the last. Orders are screamed. No one is listening anymore. The noise becomes overwhelming, iron scraping, breath rasping, the dull thud of bodies hitting the ground. Visibility collapses. All that exists is what's directly in front of you. And even that keeps shifting. A sudden impact. Not from the front, but from below. Shock ripples through the line. Confusion spreads faster than fear. Where are they coming from? The ground feels alive now, uneven, treacherous, pulling balance away at the worst possible moment. Men trained for glory and open fields find themselves trapped in a place that refuses to obey the rules of war they were taught. Someone tries to turn. There's no room. Someone tries to retreat. There's nowhere to go. The charge that was supposed to end everything has stalled, then fractured, then dissolved into something unrecognizable. Pride turns to disbelief. Disbelief turns to terror. This was meant to be quick, overwhelming, certain. Instead, time stretches painfully long. Every second drags. Every sound feels closer than it should. And as the noise begins to thin, replaced by something far worse, one question cuts through the chaos unanswered. How did it all go so terribly wrong? The year is 1302. Western Europe is tense, fractured, and quietly boiling. Power is measured in land, bloodlines, and loyalty, but above all in force. And no force carries more prestige than mounted knights. France stands as one of the strongest kingdoms in Europe. Its nobility dominates battlefields through armor, horses, and generations of warfare doctrine. To resist French authority is to challenge the very order of the medieval world. To the north lies Flanders, wealthy, densely populated, and economically vital. Its cities thrive on cloth production and trade. Money flows through narrow streets faster than armies can march. But prosperity brings danger. Control of Flanders means control of trade. And control is exactly what France seeks. Political pressure tightens. Foreign authority pushes deeper into local governance. Taxes rise. Resentment grows quietly among city guilds, craftsmen, and common laborers. The people of Flanders are not isolated farmers. They are organized, urban, and fiercely protective of their autonomy. Tension fills marketplaces. Rumors spread faster than official decrees. French officials underestimate what they see. To them, resistance looks disorganized, untrained, unthreatening. Militarily, the region appears weak. No great castles, no famous knightly orders, no legendary commanders, only towns, marshy fields, and civilians with tools meant for work, not war. But geography matters. The land around the city of Kortrijk is deceptive, flat, damp, crisscrossed by streams and ditches. It looks open, even inviting. Yet beneath the surface lies ground that punishes mistakes and rewards patience. As French forces prepare to assert control, confidence runs high. This will be a demonstration, not a struggle. A swift engagement meant to re-establish authority and send a message across Europe. Meanwhile, within Flemish cities, fear mixes with resolve. Bells ring not just for prayer, but for warning. Guild halls become meeting places. Weapons are gathered quietly. Lines are drawn, not just on maps, but in minds. No one knows how far this will go. No one knows what will be lost. But everyone senses that something irreversible is approaching. History often turns not on grand plans, but on misjudgment. And in 1302, misjudgment hangs heavy in the air. They are not knights. They do not wear polished armor engraved with family crests. They do not train from childhood in noble courts. They do not expect songs to be written about them. They are militia, drawn from guilds, workshops, and city streets. Weavers, butchers, dockworkers, carpenters. Men accustomed to long hours, strict discipline, and collective responsibility. Their lives are governed by rules, guild regulations, city laws, and shared survival. Order matters to them, even without nobility. Training is brief but focused. Movements are repeated until they become instinct. Stand. Hold. Do not break formation. Do not pursue. Do not retreat unless ordered. Weapons are simple but deliberate. Long spears, heavy clubs, reinforced staffs. Tools adapted for defense, not glory. There is no illusion of superiority here. Only necessity. Emotionally, they are conflicted. Fear is present, honest and undeniable. Many have families watching from behind city walls. Retreat is not an option without consequence. Yet there is something else too, unity. They stand shoulder to shoulder with neighbors they've known for years. Men who shared meals, arguments, debts, and celebrations. Trust replaces hierarchy. Across the field, their opponents represent a different world. French knights are professionals of war. Their lives revolve around combat readiness, honor, and reputation. They ride powerful horses bred for battle. Armor is fitted, layered, and expensive. Discipline is rigid, but confidence borders on certainty. Rules of engagement are ingrained. Charge breaks infantry. Infantry flees. History confirms it. Daily routines reinforce this belief. Drills, inspections, hierarchy. The chain of command is clear. Victory is assumed before the battle begins. Emotionally, there is impatience. This is not meant to be difficult. Warnings are dismissed. Terrain concerns minimized. Opponents underestimated. On one side, experience backed by tradition. On the other, determination shaped by survival. Neither side fully understands the other. And that misunderstanding is dangerous. The signs do not arrive loudly. They never do. They appear in small, easily dismissed moments, details that feel wrong only after it is too late. In the hours before engagement, the field lies quiet. Too quiet. There is no chaotic movement from the opposing side. No scattered formations. No rushed repositioning. Instead, the line ahead remains fixed, unnervingly still, as if it has already decided where it will stand, no matter what comes. Scouts ride out and return with uncertain reports. The enemy is waiting, they say. Not advancing. Not retreating. Waiting. It is unusual. Infantry normally shifts. Adjusts. Tests the ground. But here, there is restraint. Discipline without visible leadership. Silence without fear. Some officers exchange looks. They say nothing. The terrain begins to draw attention, not dramatically, but persistently. Hooves sink slightly deeper than expected during routine movement. Nothing dangerous. Just enough to notice. Just enough to adjust footing. Someone comments on the moisture of the ground. Another waves it off. The weather has been unpredictable all week. This land has always been soft in places. Horses snort. Stamp. Toss their heads. Animals trained for battle sense something their riders cannot articulate. Armor checks are repeated. Straps tightened. Visors lowered and raised again. Not from necessity, but habit born of unease. Across the field, the opposing line still does not move. No war cries. No taunts. No visible challenge. Only a solid wall of figures, close together, unmoving. Time stretches. Waiting becomes heavier than action. Orders are reviewed again, standard procedure. Nothing unusual. The plan remains simple. Direct. Familiar. The kind of plan that has worked countless times before. Yet some veterans feel it. A pressure behind the eyes. A tightening in the chest. They have fought many battles. They know how fear usually behaves. This feels different. Normally, resistance announces itself. It shouts. It trembles. It breaks formation too early. This resistance does none of those things. There are no last-minute negotiations. No messengers riding frantically between lines. No signs of hesitation. Only patience. From the rear, more units arrive. The formation thickens. Density increases. Space becomes limited. Not a problem yet, but noticeable. The field looks wide. Open. Deceptively forgiving. But the ground is uneven in subtle ways. Shallow dips, narrow channels, patches where the earth darkens slightly. Not obstacles. Not traps. Just irregularities. Easy to ignore. Easy to underestimate. Commanders ride the line, offering reassurance. Voices are calm. Confident. Rehearsed. They speak of inevitability. Of order. Of how this will end quickly. Confidence spreads, but not evenly. Some men glance ahead longer than necessary. Others keep adjusting their grip on reins or weapons. Small movements that betray internal tension. On the opposing side, no one breaks rank. No one steps forward. No one steps back. It is as if the field itself is holding its breath. A final signal is prepared. The moment approaches. Still, no response from the line ahead. Not even acknowledgement. In hindsight, this is where the story begins to fracture. Because wars are rarely lost at the moment of impact. They are lost in the moments where warnings are felt, but ignored. The silence remains unbroken. And somewhere, beneath boots and hooves, the ground waits. The signal is given. Movement ripples through the line, not explosive, but deliberate. Horses step forward in unison, armor shifting with a low metallic rhythm. The sound builds gradually, like distant thunder rolling closer across flat land. At first, everything feels controlled. The formation holds. Spacing is tight. Riders sit tall, confident. The ground ahead appears open, unchallenging. A place meant to be crossed quickly. Then the pace increases. Hooves strike harder. Momentum builds. The noise grows louder, sharper. More urgent. What began as order becomes force. And then subtle resistance. Not a wall. Not an obstacle. Just drag. Horses begin to slow unevenly. Some maintain speed. Others hesitate for a fraction of a second too long. That fraction matters. The line compresses. Riders adjust their balance instinctively, leaning forward, tightening their grip. Commands are shouted to maintain alignment, but the spacing has already begun to close. The ground is no longer consistent. One step feels firm. The next feels soft. Then unexpectedly unsteady. Momentum starts working against itself. At the front, contact is expected. Impact, shock, immediate collapse of resistance. Instead, there is density. The opposing line does not scatter. It absorbs. The first collision is not explosive. It is congested. Movement has nowhere to go. The force pushes inward instead of forward. Noise erupts. Metal scraping against wood. Shouting layered over shouting. Horses reacting to pressure they cannot understand. Visibility narrows to fragments, faces, shields. Movement too close to interpret. The formation strains. Rear lines continue forward, unaware of the resistance ahead. Pressure increases from behind. Space disappears completely. Someone tries to turn their horse. There isn't room. Someone else attempts to pull back. The weight behind them makes retreat impossible. The sound becomes overwhelming. Not a single roar, but dozens of overlapping noises that erase clarity. Commands are still being given, but they dissolve before reaching anyone who can act on them. The ground begins to dictate movement. Horses struggle to reposition. Hooves slide slightly, then stop abruptly. Balance becomes uncertain. Riders fight to stay upright, not because of attack, but because the surface beneath them refuses cooperation. What was meant to be speed has become confinement. The infantry line holds its shape. Not rigid, but braced. Their movements are small, controlled, deliberate. They do not rush forward. They do not break formation. They wait. The pressure intensifies. In the center, movement stalls entirely. No advance. No retreat. Just compression. On the edges, attempts are made to push around the resistance, but the terrain offers no clean path. Narrow channels funnel movement back inward. The field that looked wide now feels restrictive. Time distorts. Seconds stretch. Actions feel delayed. Decisions lag behind consequences. The noise suddenly changes, not louder, but sharper. Panic begins to creep into voices. Individual shouts replace unified commands. A rider loses control, not dramatically, just briefly. That brief moment triggers another imbalance. Then another. The formation fractures, not with a single break, but through accumulation. Small failures stack on top of each other until cohesion dissolves. What remains is confusion. Men trained to fight in open space find themselves trapped in proximity. Weapons designed for momentum feel awkward. Horses sense danger and resist further movement. The infantry does not chase. They do not surge forward. They remain where they are. The chaos continues to feed itself. Every attempt to restore order creates more pressure. Every push forward compresses the space further. Then gradually something changes. The noise begins to thin. Not because movement stops, but because certainty does. Shouting fades into isolated calls. Commands lose authority. The rhythm that once drove the advance disappears. What remains is disorganization. The field is no longer a battlefield in the traditional sense. There is no clear front. No defined lines. Only clusters of stalled motion and uncertainty. Minutes pass. Or perhaps longer. No one can say. Eventually, movement slows, not by command, but by exhaustion. The momentum that carried the force forward has vanished, replaced by a heavy stillness. And then quiet. Not complete silence, but enough to feel unsettling. The opposing line remains standing, unbroken, unmoved. Those who can disengage do so cautiously. Others remain trapped in place, unsure how to proceed. The battle that was supposed to decide everything has dissolved into something undefined. There is no dramatic ending, no clear signal, just a realization, spreading unevenly through the field. This did not unfold as it was meant to. And whatever this moment represents, it cannot be undone. The aftermath does not arrive with clarity. It arrives with paperwork. Messengers are dispatched almost immediately. Reports are requested before the dust has fully settled, before accounts can align. What returns instead is fragmentation. Statements that overlap without matching, timelines that contradict one another. Numbers do not agree. Initial tallies shift repeatedly. One list names men who appear again elsewhere. Another omits figures known to have been present. Equipment inventories fail to explain where certain items went, or why others appear far from where they should be. Officials attempt to reconstruct the sequence of events, but there is no single version to follow. Witnesses describe moments out of order. Some insist the engagement was brief. Others claim it stretched far longer. Several accounts reference signals that no one else remembers hearing. Commanders are questioned first. Their language is careful, formal, precise in structure, but vague in substance. Phrases repeat. Loss of cohesion. Unexpected conditions. Communication breakdown. No one uses words that imply failure of doctrine. No one challenges the underlying assumptions. The framework of authority remains intact, even as its explanations strain. Search parties move across the field. The land is examined systematically. Tracks are traced, then lost. The ground itself offers little clarity, as if it absorbed events without recording them. Recovered equipment raises further questions. Some items are damaged in ways that do not match standard engagement patterns. Others are intact but abandoned, positioned where they should not be. No definitive cause can be assigned. Interrogations follow. Survivors are asked to recount what they saw, but memory proves unreliable under pressure. Details shift between tellings. Confidence erodes with repetition. Officials note this inconsistency. They attribute it to stress. Yet certain observations persist across accounts. The inability to maneuver, the sudden loss of space, the sensation of being immobilized without clear reason. Still, these are noted as subjective impressions, not evidence. Higher authorities demand summaries. Condensed versions of events are produced. Language becomes more neutral, less descriptive. Edges are softened. Complexity is reduced. What cannot be explained cleanly is omitted. As days pass, the urgency fades. Attention moves elsewhere. Political priorities reassert themselves. The need for stability outweighs the need for precision. Some records are revised. Earlier drafts disappear. Later versions circulate. Minor discrepancies are corrected, but larger uncertainties remain unresolved. Public explanations emphasize resilience, strength, continuity. The incident is framed as an unfortunate but manageable episode. Privately, doubts linger. Correspondence between officials reveals unease. Not about loss, but about implication. About what it might mean if accepted explanations no longer apply. These concerns are never formalized. They do not appear in final reports. Over time, references become shorter. Mention gros. The event is absorbed into broader narratives. Its details blurred into abstraction. Search efforts conclude without announcement. No definitive findings are released. No comprehensive reconstruction is ever presented. What remains is a gap, a space between what was expected and what occurred. And within that space, questions persist, quietly unresolved, waiting to be interpreted by those who come later. As the dust settles, historians and officials attempt to make sense of what happened. Several theories emerge, each plausible on its surface, each incomplete upon closer inspection. The first suggests terrain was the decisive factor. The marshy fields, narrow channels, and uneven ground may have limited mobility. French knights, accustomed to open plains, were slowed, compressed, and funneled into predictable paths. The ground itself could have absorbed momentum, turning confidence into struggle. Maps from the period hint at streams and ditches that do not appear significant until analyzed in detail. Yet, even with terrain accounted for, the speed, cohesion, and persistence of the resistance remain difficult to explain. Could mere geography override trained knights and disciplined charges? Perhaps, but the question lingers. A second theory emphasizes discipline and unity among the Flemish militia. Ordinary men, armed with simple weapons, could resist elite cavalry because they acted collectively, held their positions, and refused to break ranks under pressure. They may have used formations, stakes, and long spears to create a defensive advantage that undermined traditional assumptions about infantry and mounted forces. Contemporary observers note the calm and precise behavior of these men under duress. Yet doubts remain. Could untrained militia really withstand professional knights so effectively without errors? The record is silent on the internal drills, routines, and coordination that would explain it. A third theory points to overconfidence and misjudgment among French commanders. Reports suggest that assumptions of superiority, disregard for subtle signs, and reliance on conventional strategy may have blinded leaders to potential pitfalls. They underestimated the preparedness, resolve, and organization of their opponents. But overconfidence alone cannot account for the sheer scale of disruption. The question persists. Why did established protocols fail when applied in a supposedly routine engagement? A fourth, more unsettling theory hints at fundamental flaws in warfare doctrine itself. Perhaps the assumptions of mounted dominance, battlefield predictability, and control of open space were flawed when faced with determined, adaptable opposition. Certain documents suggest that some witnesses and chroniclers were deliberately silenced or had their accounts erased. References in private letters speak of lessons the public should not know, and records that could change perception of power. Were there aspects of strategy, psychology, or environment deliberately obscured to protect reputation? No evidence confirms this, only hints and gaps in documentation. Other, more speculative explanations linger at the edges of inquiry. Some historians consider luck, weather, and minute timing differences. Others allude to errors in intelligence or communication. But such explanations fail to fully account for the coherence of resistance or the speed at which the battle disintegrated for the French. All theories share one trait: they create doubt. Each offers a partial lens, but raises further questions. What truly happened in those decisive moments cannot be fully reconstructed from surviving records. Reports conflict, memories fade, and official revisions obscure details. Files once thought reliable are now missing, edited, or redacted. Witnesses were silenced, deliberately or by circumstance, leaving gaps that cannot be filled. The more one investigates, the less certainty remains. The French knight's expectations, the militia's discipline, the terrain's role, and the influence of chance, none offer a complete answer. Instead, history offers fragments, contradictions, and unresolved puzzles. And within that uncertainty lies the haunting truth. Some events resist explanation. They challenge authority, defy doctrine, and refuse to fit within neat narratives. Theories abound. Evidence exists in pieces. But the ultimate answer, if one even exists, remains inaccessible, hidden somewhere in the shadows of time, waiting for those willing to question, analyze, and imagine. History records outcomes, but rarely captures the unease that lingers in their shadows. The Battle of the Golden Spurs did not simply end with the clash of arms. It unsettled assumptions. It challenged the belief that tradition, training, and prestige could guarantee victory. It revealed that the unexpected, whether patience, preparation, or environment, can shift the balance of power in ways that no strategy fully predicts. Some truths were recorded in official accounts. Dates, names, and numbers exist. But many details vanished quietly, absorbed into footnotes or edited from chronicles. Documents were rewritten. Witnesses disappeared from records. What remained in plain view tells only part of the story, leaving gaps deliberately, or perhaps unconsciously, unexplained. The battlefield itself holds its memory in silence. The fields, the marshes, and the narrow channels remain as they were, indifferent to human ambition. Time erases footsteps, but the lessons linger. The old order, once presumed unbreakable, can falter in the face of unity, resolve, and circumstance. And yet, the deeper question endures, unanswered, unresolved. Was this event an anomaly? A strange convergence of luck and environment? Or was it a signal that the assumptions of power were already fragile, waiting for the right moment to crumble? Perhaps no one will ever know. Perhaps certainty is the illusion that history provides to comfort the living. What remains is not just a story of victory or defeat. It is a story of unpredictability, of hidden truths, and of questions that echo across centuries. And so, the audience is left with one final thought. What would you have done if you were there? Share your theories, your interpretations, and your questions. Because in the silence that follows, every speculation is a bridge to understanding what history left unsaid.